Good evening to our political leader, fellow speakers, to the media, and to those listening online. Welcome back to our PRO as well. I want to start by honoring, because we all know that I'm the real MP for Diego Martin West, and we know that Keith Rowley is never around. Yeah. So, yesterday was July 27th. It was the anniversary of the failed coup. Let me tell you who I am. I am the daughter of Peter Riley, Sergeant Peter Riley. So you all will understand why I found it very disrespectful that he didn't even put a Facebook post saying, hey, thanks. Yesterday was the coup, today is the coup. Was the coup? There was nothing. He let the day pass as if it meant nothing. When I was 7 years old, so some people would say, well, you're too young to understand. Let me tell you what happened during the coup. It was the dark of the night, and soldiers lined my street. One at the corner, one at the other corner, one by the gate, one by the door. I had a 10-month-old brother, and they grabbed us, and they took us to safety. I lay on the floor, and my mom will say not even the dog that was lying down next to me in the truck barked. My dad was on a hit list, so they needed to put us into somewhere, they needed to carry us somewhere safe. I am not the only person who has trauma from that day 32 years ago. We lost people, we lost parliamentarians, we lost heroes. People died, people fought, and people stood for our democracy 32 years ago. And the Prime Minister could not be bothered to make a statement. When we forget or trivialize or ignore moments in history like that, we are at risk of repeating it. Because that is how we learn. We learn through history. It is absolutely disrespectful. I'm going to watch the camera now because Keith Rowley, I know he's listening. I know he's listening when I'm talking. It is disrespectful that you said nothing about the coup yesterday. Stories like that help our young people. Do you know why? My nephews are soldiers because of those stories. Because those stories inspire us. They help us remember who we are as a people. The Defense Force, our armed forces on that day, protected our democracy. And they did it with minimal loss. I want you guys to think for a moment where we would be today as a country had that coup been successful. Citizens, that day we fought for our democracy, a democracy that once again is under threat. But we could have easily woken up to a military state. We must never forget that day. I want to urge our citizens at this point, though, there are options. We fight with our pen, we fight with our voices, we fight by marching. If you're like Anand Ramlogan, he is fighting the court, the Privy Council all the way. Let me congratulate Anand Ramlogan, Dinesh Rambali, and our fantastic lawyers. I know they like to say them UNC lawyers from South. But the PNM lawyers, while they represent big shots and send home 5,000 workers, and that's what they do, Anand Ramlogan was in court all the way in England, making sure that the young black boy don't get thrown away and locked away in prison, because that's the answer. That's PNM answer, lock you away and forget you. But Anand Ramlogan went all the way to England because it was important enough. Young black men are important enough to UNC. So I want to urge our citizens, I know right now it feels like it felt in the 80s, because that's PNM. After 10 years, when they get them 2 terms in office, they just mash it up to that point. That's how it is. But we must learn from 1990. Here's what we must learn. Economics-wise, you'll ever notice that we had an oil boom in the 70s, and by the 80s, things were so bad that people took that kind of action to overthrow the government. How it is you have that kind of oil money in the 70s, and less than a decade later, people lining up like if we never see money in my life. PNM has never been able to manage the wealth of our country. So that's the first lesson we must learn from the coup. That's the first lesson. We have to stand up. We have to fight. Our country is at stake. Do not wait until it gets to a boiling point where we feel like we have no other choice but to overthrow a government. Now is the time. One of my sisters spoke about the Women's Arms and the constant marches and the protests that happen from east, west, north, south. Join with us. Get involved. We have a legal team that challenges this government. In fact, Faris always like to say, UNC wasting my money because we're always in court. We will use whatever tools we have to get accountability and to get action from this government. I want to go to one more thing before I close. But we normally have a timer. Where's my timer? Well, you know I could talk all night if you give me a chance. Huh? You'll tell me? What? I don't know what you're telling me, Kirk. Right. I want to go to one more thing. We had some athletes, and it's not the first time, but this time, I guess, it hit home a little bit closer. Because a few months ago, about a month ago, some of my hockey colleagues called and said, Marsha, we needed to speak up. I said, no, y'all need to speak up. Every time I speak, y'all have to understand that now, because I wear yellow, people say you're making it political, you're making it political, you're making it political. This time I always used to be a big mouth, I always used to be protesting. Nobody remember that I used to protest from a child's school when they closed it down, all kind of thing. Nobody remember that. All of a sudden, now we're in yellow, I'm making it political and I'm anti-PNM. So I say, y'all need to step up. I said, no. So gosh, we don't want to get involved, we don't want to get involved. I say, well then only deal with it. So if you have no problem with the national team not having somewhere to train, then deal with it. So go raise all the concerns. I say, well, my days for sports done, you know. All I need to deal with it. That's not the area that I shadow. I go pass it on to Anil and Naked. But me talking for y'all. And that is what I want to urge citizens to do. You see, let's pick up the phone and ask somebody else to deal with it. We had 4 young ladies stay back on an under-16 tour. Y'all hear any ages? Many from what would be considered, you know, PNM like to call them ghetto, at-risk, all kind of names they find for young ladies and for communities. But many of them from at-risk communities. We talk about steering young people away from crime. But Shamfa, well, you would have seen the video, so I try not to be too angry tonight, right? You know, in a suit and thing, showing people, you know, I could be cool and calm. I'm trying. But Shamfa, when you take on a ministry, in fact, all ministries are important, but I guess this one impacts youth, and you all know I'm passionate about the youth. We need to adopt an attitude of can-do. Many moons ago, I used to be a general manager. And the one thing that I knew, that I understood was, we could get it done. Just find a way. Find a way to get it done. So, okay, you're saying the governing bodies this and the governing bodies that. First of all, you had 2 years where sports was shut down. Nobody was touring. No national teams were going anywhere. That would have been a perfect opportunity for you, Shamfa, to go to the national governing bodies and say, hey, I notice your account's not in order. Is there anything we can do to help you to bring it up to speed? You had 2 years to sit and help these governing bodies get their books in order. Of course, it would have been a little bit hypocritical, and that may be why a government like yours, who have audited accounts outstanding for God knows how long, no transparency, no accountability, so I can understand why you would not have been able to go to the governing bodies and say, hey, I can't get no more money, you know. I send that speech, by the way, to every senator and every MP, because budget coming. So anybody who talk about transparency and they want to ask for more money and they ain't giving all, I see MP, I will send you the quotation, because she tell the governing body, until you bring audited accounts, I can't release no more money. So let best hold on to that quote, because they go come for more money and you know they didn't produce no audited accounts, right? But 4 young ladies did not go on a tour. They're playing right now. I was watching the game coming up, and those the 8 that went playing their heart out. They're playing short. They don't have the subs. Anybody who understands sports, I know you will. I know my good friend will speak after me. You will understand the pressure. They were in the airport, reaching late, just in time, tired, exhausted to play matches. Where was the attitude of, we can get it done? And tonight I want to salute MP Mohit, because a lot of the young ladies came from her constituency, and at the very last minute, we said, let's reach out to the MPs. I see, well, all right, one is Maloney. I said, well, I can't help all of there. One is Point Fortin, I can't help all of there. I said, anybody from the UNC constituencies, because I know I could get help if all they come from the UNC constituencies. Thank God, we find some ladies, and true to form, MP Mohit did not say, well, all they now coming to me, what I go do? I can't do nothing. She said, give me the information. What can I do? How can I do? She went, she looked for sponsors, she did what she can do. And then to the very end, even when she found some money, she said, let's look for tickets. We can't find tickets. She's looking for tickets. She herself looking for tickets. She was messaging parents, let me know when they reach safe. That is what we needed from you, Shamfa. That is the attitude we needed from you. You don't stand up there and say, well, they don't have all their house together. You don't have your house together. Apart from being a hypocrite. But when your prime minister will come and say, no, we need you all to work with us, work with us, work with us. Where were you to work with our team? Where were you to say, let me help, let me get involved? That is the difference. That is the difference. That's the difference between UNC and PNM. Tonight, I want to close by urging citizens. You see that rhetoric, that PNM propaganda? I hear Nabila talk about the propaganda machine. You see that underground messaging that like to talk about UNC, PNM, same thing? We are never the same thing. Call, pick up the phone, get the information. We will never be the same thing. I just showed you all a difference in attitude between one MP and another MP. Get involved. Raise your voices. You have the power. I am seeing Kirk is telling me something. I don't know if he's telling me it's time to get off. I don't know. Check my phone. I check my phone. All right, let me check my phone before I come off and then I realize he's trying to tell me. So, my time is up. Well, that's what he was trying to tell me. I tell all about the clock. We can go on forever. I hope the following speakers, because I know we have real firepower coming. I know. Well, they better have some way of telling them where to go, eh? Right. Before I go, I want to urge citizens to use your voices. Just pick up the phone and say, hey, raise an issue for me, raise an issue for me. I want to urge those young ladies, those young athletes to realize that politics matter. So when we speak, we're not up here because we want to make something political. In fact, we all got involved because we understood this is where change happens. Somebody like Kamala Bissessar, do you understand? We spoke about her qualifications. Do you understand the kind of wealth that she would have generated had she and her husband stayed in the private sector? She has literally dedicated her life. She has sacrificed her life, her character, because anybody who tried to be a woman in politics will know. She is like a shield for us. She is like a shield for us. She has been a shield for us for all her life. She takes the jam so that we can grow. And I want to say thank you for her for that, because she could have done something else, but she has dedicated her life to bring change for young people. I also want to thank, because we know she's the real Prime Minister, she made a statement on the coup yesterday. She didn't let the day pass, because she's the real Prime Minister. If we remember, and I know my time up, but if we remember, she was the one who ordered the Commission of Inquiry years later, because it was important enough. And so on behalf of all the soldiers, I thank you. On behalf of all these daughters of the soldiers, because I didn't see my dad after they dropped me off, by the way. We didn't know. We just seen thing on TV, and we don't know. They didn't have a cell phone back then. You have no idea if he's alive or not. So I want to thank the real Prime Minister of this country, Kamala Bissessar, for taking the time yesterday to honor those men and women and to acknowledge the day. I think I've spoken enough. Good night, and I look forward to reinstating Kamala Bissessar as the next Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. I want to remind you all, early elections is a thing. We could fight for it.